So what happens to a child when it doesn't receive the emotional mature support, presence, and attachment it so desperately needs to grow up into a resourceful and resilient and regulated human being? What happens to a child that isn't encouraged from a very young age to express itself authentically? Well, first, it is a recipe for the child to internalize the idea that because it didn't receive what it so desperately needed, and it wasn't encouraged to express itself authentically, but rather to suppress itself and to conform to what is normal, that it isn't worthy of love, for example, that it isn't worthy of existence, for example, that it is a failure or doesn't have anything that is right or good or fun, or that it isn't lovable. So from a very young age, the child will experience some form of lack or scarcity and will always think it isn't worthy of love and of life. It will always think that there is something wrong with it. And this will manifest itself as having this feeling of emptiness or loneliness or restlessness, which I always poetically call the void. And experiencing this void because of lack of emotional mature support, attachment, and safety, and because of not being encouraged to express itself authentically, is a traumatic experience in and of itself. This is why I always say that all human beings are in some way wounded or traumatized, rather because of situational trauma or relational trauma. And relational trauma is more common because of the emotional immature society that we are living in. So what happens is that from a very young age, the child will experience heavy feelings of grief inside because of the lack of emotional support and because of the lack of encouragement to express itself authentically. But because the child doesn't know how to handle this grief, it will suppress it or dissociate from it, or maybe even separate itself from it, creating a split inside. And this suppressed grief, which also can be sadness or anger, will eat the child and later on the adult from the inside out if not addressed and healed properly. And also what happens when the child creates a split inside because it's not able to process the grief in a proper and healthy way, it also suppresses parts of itself, pushing parts of itself away, not allowing parts of the whole to exist in its reality. And this also creates some kind of hole or gap inside, which even makes the void or the experience of the void bigger. And this void, which isn't actually a hole or an emptiness or a void, but the suppressed grief and anger and sadness and guilt and shame from your childhood and from the neglect of your childhood, the emotional neglect. It isn't consciously experienced. It manifests itself as restlessness, helplessness, feeling depressed, always searching, feeling insecure, feeling stressed, feeling anxious, being frustrated or irritated very quickly, having anger issues, having relationship issues, or you feel a blockage in your life when you try to transform yourself in your life, but you just can't seem to do that. So it manifests itself as suffering, as struggles, like mental health struggles or physical struggles or emotional struggles. Maybe you experience a burnout or a depression, or you're not very good at feeling your emotions at all, for example. So you experience more a kind of numbness in your life. And while you are not aware of this void, still subconsciously you are trying to fill that void with external means. So subconsciously you are trying to suppress the grief from the relational trauma and the emotional neglect even more by thinking that you are restless, empty, bored, depressed, burnout, whatever, and you just need to have something from the outside to make you feel happy again or to fill that void. So you try to fill that void with external means like food, drugs, alcohol, entertainment, books, a job, having a very high ambition, being a high achiever, being a perfectionist, superficial relationships, having a lot of sex, dates with people you do not even like, scrolling on social media all the time, absorbing information and more and more and more, buying stuff that you do not really need, exploiting the earth, because that's what we all do, right? We're exploiting the earth and we know it's wrong, but we still do it. And why do we do that? Because we are trying to fill ourselves, our void, our relational trauma, emotional neglect with external means. And another consequence of experiencing trauma, whether it's situational, like something happened to you, or relational, you didn't receive something you so desperately needed, has another consequence. And this one is very important also for the healing of the trauma. It is what causes people to create identities which are fake, masks and roles which are fake, just to receive the love and nurture the child so desperately needed, and you as an adult so desperately need. And it's as if you have your essence as a little child and you just put on all these coats over this essence and you hide yourself out of shame, fear, guilt, and believing you're not worthy of love. And you create fake identities, roles, and masks. And you put them on and on and on, which are very heavy because you think then you will receive the love and the nurture that you so desperately needed and never received from your parents. And healing from relational trauma or situational trauma is taking off all these layers, all these identities, all these masks, these roles you play, asking yourself, do they serve me? Is this who I truly am? Why do I act the way I do? Why do I play this role? Why do I have these masks? What's beneath it? What's underneath all these masks? What's underneath the identity that I have? Do I like this identity? Do I want to change my life? Then I have to pull of all these layers and go find what's hidden underneath it. You have to sit then with the pain, the grief, the sadness, the anger. Feel it. Sit with it. Stay present with it. Be the emotionally mature parent for the hurt inner parts of you. Grieve that your innocence got lost in the society we are living in, because our innocence is taken away from us growing up in a society like this. Sit with the void, the emptiness, and feel that it isn't emptiness, but a lot of suppressed emotions that you try to numb, suppress, dissociate from, or split yourself from. And if you experience situational trauma or relational trauma, which causes negative experiences in your childhood, because these are often intertwined, especially when your situational trauma is tied to your family system, which of course isn't always the case, but often it is, you have to also go back to the situations or the negative childhood experiences and not run away anymore from the pain and the hurt and the anxiety and the anger, the heavy emotions that you experienced in that situation, and sit with the child you were back then and give it everything that it so desperately needed in that situation. Be the protector of your own hurt inner parts. And just desensitize the situation, sit with it, breathe through it, feel the emotions, go back as often as needed until it calms down and desensitizes. And your inner child or that part of you is integrated into your being. And you made it part of your existence again because you acknowledged it, accepted it, and was present with it. You gave it the emotional presence and safety and support that it needed, that you needed as a little child. And this is how you heal. This is how you reparent and become the emotional, mature adult. You can tell your younger self, we're okay now. We're an adult now. We're grown up now. We are in control now. We can make our own decisions and protect ourselves now. I am here with you. I'm here with myself and I will never leave myself again. This is a very important message and it will empower you. And another thing that is very important is that you realize that what you have experienced, whether it's situational or relational trauma or both, that it never had anything to do with you or who you are. And this is a very, very freeing realization. It was just a get-together of circumstances and situations, and it had consequences, but in essence, it had nothing to do with you and your worth, or whether you are lovable or not in and of itself. So make sure that you finally understand that it had nothing to do with you, and free yourself from the burden that you were the one to blame, at fault, or that you had to be guilty for experiencing that, or that you have to carry all that weight, the responsibility for it. You don't. We have to do that together as a society. We have to do that as adults. And we are doing it now for ourselves, taking the responsibility, but not the child you were. So to heal yourself and transform yourself in your life and rediscover who you truly are and become your authentic self, it is important to dive into the void, into the grief, into the sadness, into the suppressed emotions that are tied to negative childhood experiences, situational trauma and or relational trauma, and heal those emotions. Invite them, acknowledge them, feel them, cry, shout, scream, breathe breathe, 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 and cry until all these suppressed emotions can, like, before they were stuck energy and now they can flow again. So that they can flow again and that they like disappear or dissolve or integrate into your being. And then you can discover what is underneath the suppressed emotions, all the suppressed parts of who you truly are, and that you hid out of shame, fear, guilt, anger, unworthiness. So going through the emotions, through the grief, through the pain, the hurt, it will help you to discover who you truly are, who you authentically are. You will discover your true self underneath it all. And by becoming who you authentically are, you heal yourself, you heal your family system, and you heal parts of the collective. Because authenticity is a basic need. And the more people heal and dare to be who they authentically are, the more people will shine their light, and by shining their light, encourage others to do the same. And this is how we free ourselves. This is how we stop with trying to externally fill the void and the emptiness we feel inside. This is how we stop with exploiting the earth, with buying more than we need, with eating more than we need. This is how we can end poverty, because we fill ourselves from the inside out, and we are able to give again back to the planet, to the earth, to people, instead of taking. So filling the void means feeling the suppressed emotions, healing them, integrating them, discovering your authenticity under the surface, expressing your authenticity, shining your light, filling yourself from the inside out, and giving from the heart back to the planet. Take responsibility, become emotionally mature, sit with the grief, and free yourself from it. Fill the void from the inside out. Hey there, if you like this video, then please click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos on all of these topics. My name is Myrthe Glasbergen. I'm the founder of Beyond Psychology, and I'm also an occupational health psychologist, coach, and intuitive singer and creator. And I've created my own method for somatic and emotional healing and inquiry, because I strongly believe that the tools of traditional psychologists such as talk therapy and coaching fall short because they focus way too much on cognitive healing, while our true healing takes place on an emotional level. So all my tools contain healing music, spoken word, poetry, and voice healing to help you get into a receptive and investigative state of being from which you can take a deep dive inside your body, stay present with yourself, and heal your suffering at the root. So if you want to work on the topic of this video or one of my other videos, then you can do that in 3 ways. You can work one-on-one with me in my one-on-one practice. You can find the link below. But you can also visit my web shop to find a specific tool for a specific theme. And you can subscribe to Heart Journey. It's my online platform and community for self-discovery, healing, transformation, and growth. Thank you for being here, and have a nice day.